What's up, my cruise friends? We're gonna talk cruise line private islands. Private islands, they're the thing right now, or as the kids say, it's the move right now. Every major cruise line either has one, is building one, or is aggressively expanding the one they already have. And they all look amazing in photos, right? Crystal clear water, white sand beaches, perfectly placed lounge chairs, and not a single crowd in sight. Which, if you've actually been to one of these places, you know that's not really how it is in real life. So today, I'm gonna rank 5 cruise line private islands that real cruisers consistently complain about. And I'm gonna do it with a twist. For each one, I'm gonna be completely honest about the criticism. You know I'm not shy about talking ship, but I'm gonna flip the script a little bit and tell you what's actually great about it, because you know I'm always a ray of freaking sunshine. But before we get into the list, I want to address something that came up because I actually posted this to my Facebook group. I have a really great cruising community, and I asked people, what do you think about cruise line private islands? And a couple of things really shocked me. So let me share these with you, and then I'll get into the ranking and what people had to say about it. So this one actually I think kind of set the tone for what is actually true. All right, so Chris D, he left a comment that said, are there any cruise line private islands that are not tourist traps / money grabs? And Chris, the honest answer is kind of no. I mean, they are a little bit of a money grab. Let's just call it what it is. That's sort of baked into the concept. The cruise line owns the land. They control what you eat and drink and whether or not your drink package carries over. And we're gonna talk about that because that's a hot button issue. And they've intentionally designed the entire experience to keep your wallet open and keep that money flowing. Now, some of them are more upfront about it than others. And one of them, and you'll absolutely know which one I mean by the time we get to number 1 on this list, has turned it into an art form. In fact, I call it, well, we'll get to that. I don't want to spoil it. But here's the thing. I do think most of them are worth it, legitimately. I would not tell you otherwise. So I want to explain why. But also, another thing that surprised me with this, I asked people their favorite cruise line private islands, and I love the cruising community, and you guys tickle me so much every day. Sometimes you pee me off, but a lot of times the cruising community just really tickles me. But I gotta say this with much love. There are a lot of things that are actually not private islands. So I wanna make sure everyone knows what a private island is and what it is not. I got a lot of comments of people saying, well, I don't love Grand Turk. Well, Grand Turk, it is not a private island. It is an island and part of the Turks and Caicos island chain, but it is not a private island. Also Freeport. Freeport is not a private island. Celebration Key is a private area on that island, but Freeport as a port of call, which some places do still call to Freeport, that's not a private island. So a private island is a destination that is owned and exclusively operated by a cruise line. You just can't roll up there on a random day of the week. You can't Google, how do I Uber to CocoCay? The only way there is on and off of a cruise ship. And the only cruise ships allowed are from that specific line. That's what makes it private. So Grand Turk, it's a port. It's a public port in a sovereign nation where anyone can go. Beautiful, absolutely. Private island, no. And I was a little shocked at how many people kind of didn't understand that distinction. So I just wanted to lay that out there before we get into it. And I also want to mention something else before I jump into it. Dan G said, I feel like the list shouldn't be the 5 worst as much as the 5 least best. They're all gonna be good. You have a really great point here, Dan, because they're all great, right? And talk about privilege. Even the worst day on the worst private island is a pretty amazing day. And I think I would take that over most days on land. So it's all relative, right? But anyway, let's get into it. Number 5. Great Stirrup Cay. We're gonna start with Norwegian's private island, Great Stirrup Cay. And I wanna be upfront, I have not been to this one. I've been to all of them on this list except for this one. And this one is on here for a very specific reason. So Norwegian fans, please do not come at me. And I'm gonna try to cruise Norwegian this year, I promise. That's on the top of my priority list. Now, Great Stirrup Cay, it is not necessarily a bad destination. The problem is getting there. Great Stirrup Cay, it's tender only. So that means if the wind picks up, the seas get choppy, and Norwegian looks at those tender conditions and they say, absolutely not. And that means your private island day is gone, sea day, or maybe you get rerouted to Nassau. And I love Nassau, but it's very different than a private island experience. And this is not a rare edge case. Multiple people in my community mentioned this, and one of my friends said it best. Julie B, she said, Great Stirrup. Both times we were supposed to go, it was canceled due to weather and inability to take the tenders in. Both times, Julie has tried to visit Great Stirrup Cay, not once, but twice. And she's not alone. Lisa mentioned that there used to be a running gag among Norwegian cruisers that Great Stirrup Cay actually didn't exist. And I'm not a Norwegian cruiser. Hopefully I will be, right? But apparently in the Norwegian community, this has been like an ongoing joke, that it actually doesn't exist because so many people have had it on their itinerary and they never actually got to set foot on land. So I do think this one is completely earned because it's a pretty bad private island if you can't actually get to it. And another thing that Lisa B said that I found really interesting is that NCL, or Norwegian, did make it so that your drink package does not work on the island. And I know there's been like a lot of back and forth with Norwegian. It was drink packages don't work here. They got a lot of backlash, a lot of heat for it. Yes, it does. So that's a contentious issue as well. And I got a real bone to pick with certain cruise lines that do make it that their drink package don't work on their private islands, but I'll rant about that in just a moment. So when it comes to Great Stirrup Cay, the frustrating point, yeah, you can't get there sometimes. But I want to know if you've ever made it to Great Stirrup Cay, is it worth the hype? Is it worth the pain apparently trying to get there? And probably the strongest opinion I got on Great Stirrup Cay is Ryan E., who said he has been to 5 different cruise line private islands. And even though he did make it on land, Great Stirrup Cay is the worst by a clear margin. Okay, that's a pretty strong opinion. He also went on to say, didn't enjoy that island at all. Now, the upside here is that Norwegian has been investing pretty heavily in Great Stirrup Cay, and the dock situation genuinely changes the calculus on cancellations because of the building out of a dock. So if you're sailing Norwegian and this is on your itinerary, go in with low expectations and open eyes, but maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised, or maybe you'll end up on another unexpected sea day. I don't know. Either way, at least you'll know that going in. Number 4, this is going to be controversial, and I personally love this private island, but I do see why a lot of people don't, and that is MSC's Ocean Cay Marine Reserve. And by the way, I also want to do a quick little side note. You know, I love my side quest because this is an issue, and I get mansplained a lot in my videos. They're like, it's Cay, it's Ocean Cay, it's Princess Cay. No, my sweet summer child, it's Cay, it's Cay. And actually I gotta say kudos to Carnival for finally just fighting Americans who mispronounce C-A-Y and C-A-Y-S and C-A-Y-E, and they just actually spelled it K-E-Y. So the only exception is Perfect Day at CocoCay, because Perfect Day at CocoCay sounds kind of stupid, but it is Cay. So anyway, number 4. Ocean Cay Marine Reserve, MSC's private island. It is a pretty awesome private island, but it gets one very specific complaint. And the people making it, I can see their point, even though I don't agree with it. And they complain it's boring. So if you book a Caribbean cruise and you're expecting those swim up bars like a DJ and you're doing the wobble in the water and big water slides and just a full-on beach party, Ocean Cay is gonna start feeling like you took a wrong turn. MSC converted a former industrial island into this protected marine reserve. They actually do a lot of like ecological stuff, which I think is really cool. And the development is by design intentionally minimal. So you're not gonna find those water slides. You're not gonna find this massive lagoon pool complex. You're gonna have limited food and beverage options compared to the competitors. So here's the interesting thing. The cruising community tends to be more split on Ocean Cay than any other island on this list that came up in this discussion. And one particular person had an interesting take that I wanted to share with you that I think is really important because this isn't talked about enough in cruising. And this is Angelica D. She had a really rough experience. And here's what she had to say. Disability access was lousy when we went. The tram brings yacht club. And if you don't know what that is, that's a really expensive MSC cruise within a cruise, like privilege class. Very, very expensive, which is why I've never done it because I ball on a budget. Probably never will, but we'll see. But anyway, I guess the tram prioritizes yacht club, so you have to wait on top of waiting. Angelica said it was taking load after load. We finally had to plead, oh my God, to get my disabled mother-in-law on a tram. Also, the vegetarian entree at the buffet was literal lima beans. Ooh. Angelica, the lima bean thing, I cannot with that. That's genuinely a fail, especially because a lot of the other cruise lines, private islands, they have pretty awesome food. One of them actually is on this list that I know is gonna surprise you. But anyway, the disability access thing, that's a real problem. And I've started to kind of have my eyes open to this a little bit more. I took my mom and stepdad on a family cruise, and my mom is a little mobility challenged. She has a hip replacement, and having to wait for a tram at some of the cruise port locations in Nassau, we had a really bad experience. So I really started to be more mindful of cruisers that have mobility limitations and the challenges that you face. So it's really disappointing to hear that, and I can see why that would be a pain point as well. Now, other friends in the community had a contrary opinion. Stephanie R. said not only is Ocean Cay not the worst, in her opinion, it's the absolute best. She said, Ocean Cay, I love how MSC has kept it very natural, not building it up like an amusement park like the other cruise lines are. The water's amazing, and if you're overnight there, you get to have a beach party and a lighthouse show. It's such a treat. And girl, yes, that is my favorite thing about Ocean Cay. I've actually been to Ocean Cay several times, but only once on a cruise where we got to do it overnight, and MSC always does this big white party, and it was really fun because you have your nice beach day, and the pier's really short too, which I like about it. And there's no tendering. I hate tendering. But you go back on the ship, you can shower, you can take a little nap, you can relax, cool down, put on your cute little white beachy outfit, and then go back out. And the lighthouse show, it's like a light show. It's really cool. And they have a DJ, and it's just a really neat experience because normally on cruise ports of call and private islands, you're just like rush, 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 rush. And I love cruising, but that's one thing about cruising that I really don't like. So that is a really refreshing thing. Now, it is important to note, they don't do that at every call to Ocean Cay. So if you're booking or looking at an MSC cruise that has Ocean Cay on the itinerary, don't assume it's an overnight because they usually actually are not. In my case, again, I've only had one overnight there, but it absolutely was amazing. And I like the rustic nature of it too. I agree with you that I think it's awesome. And another friend that agreed is Brian S. He said, MSC is the only one we've been to, but we love it. It's so calm and chill, and you get a free relaxing beach day. or 2 if it's an overnight stay, that you don't have to pay extra for. Plus, and this is a big one, your drink package works on the island. And again, when it comes to cruise line private islands and whether or not they're money grab, this is the big beef I have, and I'm not even a drinker. So when it comes to the nature part of Ocean Cay, what I do love about it is that it is intentionally by design rustic. The snorkeling I think is great. When you get off the pier, there's actually an area right there on the left. There's like a rock wall. I always bring my own snorkel set because I think it's disgusting and a waste of money to rent. There is not a lot of umbrellas or shade, so that is one little bit of a problem in that area. But snorkeling there is usually really good, and I've seen really colorful fish every single time that I have went. So I do like that rustic nature. Obviously, a lot of folks agree with me, but it's not for everybody. If you have little kids and they love the water slides, my 13-year-old loves water slides, so this is not her favorite spot in terms of private islands. So if you don't like the rustic, Ocean Cay is probably gonna bore you. If you do like the rustic and you're just looking for a chill, legitimately free beach day where you're not gonna get nickel and dime for every drink when you already bought the drink package on the ship, Ocean Cay I think is pretty awesome. All right, number 3, I hate to include this, but I gotta include it. It's Labadee. Labadee is the most complicated private island on this list and deserves an honest conversation. Now, the immediate reason this is on the list, obviously, Labadee has been closed for the majority of 2024 and 2025, and Royal Caribbean has already confirmed it will remain closed through the end of 2026. So obviously, it's a terrible private island if you can't get there. And I'm not talking I can't get there on a tender boat like Great Stirrup Cay. I'm talking you can't go at all. Now, the reason is it is located in Haiti, and Haiti has ongoing security situations, including a level 4 do not travel advisory. So it's a kind of a dangerous spot right now, so much so that Royal Caribbean has pulled the plug on it. But there is a deeper conversation here. For those that were able to call to Labadee, I love it. A lot of folks in the community said they love Labadee. There are some problematic things about it, even when it is open, and if it ever does open again, that I think are worth a conversation. Now, I have not experienced this, but basically because of the turmoil and the political kind of conflict that's always happening here, even when it was open, it was very secure and very walled off, which is a good thing, right? But it does kind of demonstrate kind of, I think, a little bit of the icky factor of, privileged cruisers coming into this, troubled country. And it's like kind of the have and have nots. At least that's like where my brain goes. And maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. I probably am. I think about this stuff way too much. But I've also heard that the locals have been pretty aggressive at trying to really clamor for the cruiser dollars and try to sell them stuff. Again, that was not my experience, but I also didn't venture near, I guess, the fenced area. I found Labadee to be absolutely beautiful. I loved it. I'm glad I got to go while it was open. And I do hope it does open eventually one day. And other cruisers that have been there tend to agree with this take. In particular, I have one friend on Facebook, Michelle B., who put it simply, Labadee, Haiti, it's a family favorite. We had the best time chilling at the beach and enjoying the zip line. Oh yeah, they have an amazing zip line that's called Devil's Breath that a lot of people love. I actually don't like zip lining. I find it boring, so I don't do it, but apparently people absolutely love it. And she also noted the issue with the vendors being super pushy, very aggressive, but even in spite of that, it is a favorite. And she also says, I wish we could return. So the closure is a loss in multiple directions. The story of Labadee is a lot more layered than its worst or the best cruise line, and there's just a lot going on there. And another friend, Julie M., also agreed, saying, I've only been to Labadee, which we really loved, which honestly for a lot of people is exactly how they feel about their first private island visit, regardless of which one it is. All right, number 2. I don't think this is a hot take because I agree with this. I am not a big fan of this particular private island at all. And by the way, it's interesting that the 2 worst private islands are owned by the same company. And again, I want to say, even a bad day on a private island beats a day on land, or even a sea day, I would argue. But number 2, Princess Cay. All right, so Princess Cay. It's kind of the one where it's like people aren't outraged, but it's kind of a deflated disappointment, especially if you don't know this going in and you've never been there before. Because you see the pictures look great. I've got some bomb pictures from Princess Cay where you're like, oh my God, that water looks amazing. But there's one specific complaint. And one of my Facebook friends basically said it best. Stephanie R. named it her worst for the reason of how rocky it is and the need for water shoes. So friends, if you're visiting Princess Cay and you take nothing else away from this video, bring your water shoes. I don't care where you go on Princess Cay. I don't care what area you go to on Princess Cay. It's rocky. It's gonna tear your feet up. You are going to want to wear, and I hate water shoes. I think they're ugly, they're gross and like soggy. And I've done water socks, which are kind of slightly better, but still kind of ick. But you really, really wanna wear water shoes or water socks. And Gary E. had probably the most unexpectedly delightful take on this. He said Princess Cay because of how rocky it is, but he took his telescopic fishing rod. I don't know what that is. Does that mean there's like expanding? I guess that would make sense. I don't know. I'm not a fisher woman. Anyway, he took his telescopic fishing rod to the north end of the island and found 2 megalodon teeth. That's really freaking cool, Gary. And so for that reason, that holds a spot in Gary's heart as his favorite. All right, Gary, you found a megalodon tooth. That's pretty cool at Princess Cay. So I guess you got to look amongst all those rocks because you might find some ancient artifacts. So you never know what you're gonna find at Princess Cay. And man, you can't make this stuff up. I love this community. Now, a big issue with Princess Cay, which is an issue with other Carnival private islands that we're gonna get to. The drink package does not transfer from the ship here. And if you've been keeping track, this is a frustrating pattern across the entire list. Again, for me, that's my #1 beef when it comes to cruise line private islands. And I am not a drinker. It's just the principle of it. It's like, how are people gonna spend all this money? Because drink packages, they are not cheap. And you are on a cruise line private island. They own it. They're serving you their drinks. You're their customer. And with a lot of these private islands, you can't get off them. Now, there's one exception, which is the #1 on our list that we'll get to in a minute, because it's actually not a private island. It's a private area on an island. But with these private islands, you can't just be like, I don't like the drink package thing. I'm gonna go find a Senior Frogs down the road, exit the terminal, and get my cheap drinks there. You can't do that. So I think it is an absolute disgusting money grab. And cruise lines that do this, which is mostly Carnival, Princess and Holland to an extent, which is owned by Carnival Corporation, same parent company, that is really something that sticks in my craw. Now, another thing that makes me like or dislike a cruise line private island that I also heard a lot of complaints about is whether or not it is a tender port. And if you're newer to cruising, a tender port means that the ship can't actually dock like close to shore or there's no pier. So the ship has to dock kind of far out and you take these smaller boats called tender boats to get to the actual island. And I hate the tender process. I hate it. It's hot, you're waiting in line. I hate lines, I hate waiting. I hate not being shaded. I've actually gotten sunburned on a long tender before. I'm not a fan of it, to the point so much so that there are certain cruise line private islands that I kind of steer away from if it is a tender port. Now, here's what people miss about Princess Cay though, because remember I told you I'm a ray of sunshine. I'm gonna tell you the good stuff. There are stretches of this beach that are legitimately gorgeous. It is beautiful. If you like Instagram and you like taking pretty shots, you're gonna need some beautiful photos. And the water here is that beautiful shade of that Caribbean Bahamas blue. And it reminds you of why you're taking a Caribbean cruise in the first place. And another upside is because the island is smaller, it's less developed, you don't feel overcrowded usually when you're there. And they do include a free barbecue lunch, which I think is pretty daggone good. So if you're looking for a quiet, low-key beach day where you actually don't have to spend money, assuming that you don't want alcohol beverages that you already paid for with the drink package, that is, you're fine with a buffet lunch and lemonade and water and whatever other freebie stuff that you get there, which is the limited stuff, right? Princess Cay, it's actually pretty perfect for that. Just make sure, remember, pack your water shoes. And also make sure you bring your telescopic fishing rod, and maybe you'll find a prehistoric shark tooth. Yeah, you never know. It's a wonderful thing about cruising. All right, #1, probably nobody's surprise, Celebration Cay, which I like to call Celebration Fee. You see what I did there? And the reason this is a reviled cruise private island is because of the nickel and diming. And that's a shame because it is pretty beautiful. It's a pretty amazing property. And it's Carnival's brand new private destination. It's located on Grand Bahama Island and it opened last summer and it's been generating some strong opinions ever since it opened. The complaints started almost immediately. They actually flew out a lot of content creators. I never go on these things because I'm not about to like hype up cruise lines. I always want to be honest. So I never go on these things. And it's funny too, because when they first opened and they had all of these like content influencer creators come out, they're like, oh my God, it's so gorgeous. It's so stunning. It's so beautiful. And then a week later, when it was open to the public, it was a different story. It was, oh my God, there's bees, bees, bees everywhere. I feel nickel and dimed. The drink package doesn't work here. It's rocky. All of these complaints that we now know are actually a real thing. So I actually visited Celebration Cay on my own dime, I shall add. I don't do cruise line sponsorships. I visited in July, so not long after it opened. And I did find the property very beautiful, but I shared a lot of the complaints that a lot of people in the community have, which is the drink package doesn't work there. So again, you spent $650,000 getting the drink package. You walk off the ship, you're on Carnival's private property. You find out you're paying out of your pocket for every single drink. And also those drinks are not cheap. My sister was on this cruise with me and she got like a medium-sized daiquiri and it was like $16 because they also add gratuity and VAT on top of it. So it's really, really expensive. And she'd already bought the drink package on the ship. It's like highway robbery. So I asked my community to weigh in. I wanted to make sure like it's not just me that thinks this, right? And also I wanted to know if you don't like a cruise line private island, what do you not like about it? And I got a lot of takes on this one. This definitely was the one that got the most passionate feedback. Adam S. left a comment while he was there, actually a few days ago, live at Celebration Cay in real time. He said, I'm currently at Celebration Cay. I will never return. Beautiful, huge pools, colder than tap water. You know it's cold when even the kids refuse to swim in it. Want to head anywhere else? Minimum of $120 round trip cab ride. The drink packages don't transfer to the shore. The free food is limited to 2 choices from 3 different food trucks. They truly dropped the ball by not heating the lagoons. If they had them heated, it would be a completely different story. Adam, I feel you on that. I really can't put into words more than what you did. That's my exact issue too. So Carnival has this huge lagoon, which I think they brag is like the largest pool in the world or something. But the problem with a large pool it's really hard to keep it warm. So even when you visit and it's hot temperatures outside, you get in that water and it's cold. And as a parent of a 13-year-old, I feel you. If a kid won't even go in, because these are kids that want to wear shorts in like the sub-zero temperatures of winter, then you know it's like cold, cold, cold. So yeah, the cold pool, the drink package not working, the food options, those are all pain points. And then Seth Kay made a really smart point that I think a lot of people kind of miss going in, which is, and this is important, Celebration Cay is very contingent on the time of year you go. The lagoons are not heated, again, common complaint. So if you go in the winter, you likely will find it too cold for swimming. And that's really important. The last time I was there was on my birthday cruise on Mardi Gras in February. And we went to Celebration Cay and it was cold. And like not just water cold, like it was cold, cold. And so there was literally nobody in the pools at all. But I did, because it was so cold, I'm like, I want to do a little experiment for science. Can you exit? So what makes Celebration Cay different than the other cruise line private islands, and by the way, again, the mansplainers love to come out, it's not a private island. Okay, it's a private section of a bigger island, which is a good thing because actually you can get out of there. If you go to Celebration Cay on a day like I did when it's super cold and you're like, there's nothing to do here, I don't want to just waste a port day and sit on the ship, because a lot of times on port days, the ship doesn't have all the stuff happening like they do on sea days, right? So I actually exited the terminal and there are taxis right there. And I actually found a private driver. I haven't used him to explore the island, but I do have the information below if you are interested in checking that out, or if you want that on hand in case you go on a day that it is so cold you really can't do anything. But that is a unique thing about Celebration Cay that's distinctive from the other areas. So that's important to know. And another thing that a lot of my friends touched upon is a food situation. That's very frustrating. It's confusing and it's limited. A lot of the other private islands, it's unlimited, it's buffet style, or at Royal Caribbean's CocoCay, there's all these different food stands. You can get even things like mozzarella sticks or funnel cakes, and it's all free. It's all included. And with Celebration Cay, you get one free meal per passenger, and you have that from a handful of food trucks. The lines can be really bad. They also do have like this kind of cafeteria style that has like burger, pizza nuggets, and the food is just mid. And I'm like, why would I eat this like sawdust tasting burger? I'd rather just go back on the ship and eat a delicious Juicy Guys burger. So anything beyond these basic included limited meal choices is an upcharge. In Celebration Cay, it is starting to get super, super crowded. Now they are building and expanding that out, which a lot of my friends pointed out, but I do think the crowdedness is still going to stand, especially as they expand the island, because they're expanding the pier first. So they're gonna start bringing in more ships before they actually expand on the real estate. Now, another friend, Jen L, said something that I think we all feel deep down, which is the line for donuts at Celebration Cay is way too long, but I'll take a day at any of them versus a day not on an island. Yes, Jen, I just said that. Yes, I would rather have a not so good day on a private island in the Bahamas than being here in the cold Midwest, right? Look at me, I'm wearing a jacket. So these are a lot of the common complaints about Celebration Cay. I think it is what has earned Celebration Cay the not so favorable nickname of Celebration Fee. But undeniably, it is beautiful. There are a lot of great options. They've kind of copied Royal Caribbean's CocoCay with their different zones. They do have a paid adult area where there is a heated pool. They have a family-friendly side and an adult-friendly side. The beach here is pretty rocky though, which is a downside, but the food options and the drink options are also a big pain point. So like everything else in life, it's nuanced and there are pros and cons. And all right, I'm gonna give you one dishonorable mention, and I know this is gonna really spark some discussion, shall we say. And I will say I don't agree with this, but I do see why some people think this. And this one is gonna surprise you, especially because this private island destination is consistently ranked as #1 favorite private island. And I'm talking about a place I'm actually gonna go in a few days, and it's perfect day at CocoCay. And fun fact, by the time you watch this, I actually might even be there the day that you watch this or within a few days. But anyway, what earns this a honorable or dishonorable mention on the worst cruise line list? And I will say I personally love it. I love CocoCay. I stand for CocoCay. I have no beef with CocoCay, but I understand why some people feel this. I can't ignore it. Some people are very vocal about this, right? I will share with you kind of some things that go back to what Chris D said at the beginning, which is they're all money grabs. And when it comes to commercialization, that's probably the biggest complaint about CocoCay. Of all the cruise line private islands, it's probably the biggest, most expensive, most unapologetically commercialized space in the entire cruise island world. So the original CocoCay, it was simple. It was meant to be a quiet beach stop, and that's what it was. But over the years, Royal Caribbean, they invested like $250 million, like building it into something that looks to beach purists like, well, a resort, and a resort that charges you extra for a lot of the things like water slides and things like that. Coco Beach Club, which I love. I did Coco Beach Club a couple of visits ago. I absolutely loved it. It's pricey, but I loved it. I actually might do it when I go in a few days. And we'll see if it's not sold out. But there is an upside. CocoCay, a lot of people love it because the drink package works here. The food is great and it is actually all included. But the commercialization is what irritates a lot of people, I think. And one of my friends said it well, which is, Shockingly, I don't love CocoCay. Too much going on, too overstimulating, jellyfish and seaweed problems. It's not very walkable. The trams are inconsistent. That's kind of a recurring theme I'm picking up here with these private islands. The relaxing areas really aren't there for me, and it always feels very, very, very busy. The food is meh, and bar service can be slow. So that's a litany of things that she doesn't like about it. And that's completely valid as a take. If you do want a quiet beach day, CocoCay is not always the place. Now they do, if you're willing to walk or wait for the slow tram, you can get to it. There definitely are some like quieter spots. It is a huge property. It is difficult to navigate if you have mobility issues. So I do think that there are some legitimate complaints about CocoCay, although a lot of cruisers like me absolutely love it. I hear what you're saying. And another person, let's see, Patty J, she said it really well. The worst one I've been to is Perfect Day at CocoCay, but it was also the only one I've been to. Okay, well, it's, I guess, your best and your worst by default. So yeah, I definitely see some of the criticism, some of the complaints. Definitely the over commercialization. It's not your rustic beach day. That's gonna be Ocean Cay with MSC. But there is a reason that CocoCay is consistently the #1 ranked private island. It's that for a reason. It does handle an enormous range of travelers. We've got family, people who want thrills, kids that don't want to be bored, people who do want to relax. It's harder to find a relaxing, legit, quiet, chill spot, but they're there. You either got to pay for it or you got to walk further to get to it. Also, even people who want something closer to a luxury resort experience. And it delivers all of that at the same time on the same island without each of them getting in each other's way. And that's why I think that the zone design they set up is beautiful. And I can see why Carnival with Celebration Cay is starting to try to emulate that. No other private stop in the Caribbean does that. Now, is it a money grab? Okay, yeah, it is a little bit, but is it nice that you can use your drink package there? Yes. Is it still one of the best days that you're gonna have on a cruise ship at a private island? I think so, yes. And that's what makes it so interesting to talk about. And that's what I like about this cruise community. We all have our different opinions. I think no one is ever right or wrong. You're entitled to think what you think. Let me know what you think. Drop your comments below and let's talk ship.